Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Friday. The weekend is very nearly here. It might already be here by the time you're watching or listening to this show. I hope you're having a very good day wherever you are around this world of ours. Anyway, plenty to discuss today. It's press conference day. Of course, that'll be happening a little bit later on at London. Colin Mikel Arteta sitting down in front of the media ahead of that game against West Ham tomorrow at the Emirates. So we'll get the latest team news and updates from him on any potential I was going to say any potential injured players coming back. I don't think that's going to happen, but we might get some updates in terms of how some of the recovery is going. Probably get more from him on Tomiyasu as well. So it's interesting. We get a little bit more insight into exactly what's going on with Tommy. So that's to come. It's Champions League draw day as well. Actually, by the time you're watching this, you'll probably already know who Arsenal have got because that draw is happening this morning, 11 o'clock UK time. It is kicking off. Either be Feyenoord or it'll either be PSV. As I said, it will probably be a little bit out of date by the time you're watching this, but we will take a look at the potential paths of that draw and what could be to come because we'll actually know. We won't just know the draw for who Arsenal get in around of 16 today. We'll actually know the path through potentially to the final, if you can think that far ahead when it comes to the Champions League and Arsenal. But we'll talk about the West Ham game today. We're going to talk about Mikel Merino, the sort of decisions facing Mikel Arteta in terms of team selection. Plenty of other little tidbits as well to go through, and got some comments from you guys as well. Just wanted to say to any of you who were at the Queen's Head last night for the live Gooner Talk TV show that we did. I was on the panel yesterday with Tom, obviously from Gooner Talk TV. Did a live show, fantastic fun, great night with Jeremy, Ali Adier, Clive Palmer, and Harry Simew. Of course, lots of you who also watched his channel were there in the audience and came up and said hello afterwards. So a really fun night. So thank you very much to everyone who came, and I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I hope you did, because it was a fun night indeed. So thank you very much to everyone, and congrats to Tom on a really successful night. Right, let's go on to West Ham, shall we? And big game for Arsenal, huge game for Arsenal, of course, in terms of the title race after Liverpool dropped points in midweek. Got to take advantage. Liverpool at Manchester City on Sunday as well. You know, not quite as tough a fixture as that normally is, especially when you look at the sort of shell that Manchester City are now, and they're coming off the back of a demoralising defeat in Madrid as well, away travel to Madrid. So it's definitely not as hard as it could possibly be for Liverpool, but it is still Man City. It is still at the Etihad. So you've got to hope maybe City can do Arsenal a favour, but Arsenal just got to take care of themselves, do the job themselves. And obviously they're doing it, going to have to do it without any forwards because of the situation that they're in. So what is Mikel going to do? We've spoken about it on this show. Mikel Merino is clearly the big talking point going into this game. On that live show we did last night at the Gooner Talk at the Queen's Head in Islington, a lot of that discussion was around West Ham and what Mikel's going to do, and specifically when it comes to Merino and the forward. And I think Merino plays, first of all. I'd be surprised if he doesn't. As I've mentioned in shows this week, I think it would have been a harder decision if Sterling had a really good performance and then Merino comes on and scores 2 goals. But because Sterling was so off it, you know, I just imagine whatever little confidence he had going into that game is now absolutely rock bottom. And I think as a manager, you probably have to understand that. I'm sure Arteta did. Jeremy Aliadier was talking about it on that live show last night, how even at elite level football, confidence is such a massive thing. And sort of sometimes you do have to take a player out the firing line to, you know, help him, basically. And I just wonder, you know, if Sterling had that performance last week at the Emirates in front of 60,000 fans who were getting edgier and edgier as the game wore on at 0-0, I don't think the reaction to Sterling's performance would have been great. And I imagine when he got substituted, we heard it before, you know, there would have been certain sections of that fans that would have probably cheered that substitution, which is going to be no good for anyone, obviously. But because that didn't happen, it was away from home, you didn't really get that sort of potential flashpoint happening, which was a good thing for Raheem Sterling. But I do wonder if you kind of think to yourself, if that happens at the Emirates this weekend, that could be a really bad thing. So maybe you take him out the firing line, give him 20 minutes in the second half and see if he can do something and impact the game in that way against more tired legs. And Merino, of course, came off the bench, scored 2 goals. Confidence is going to be sky high. Yes, he's not a forward, and I've got question marks in my head about whether he's going to be able to do it from the start. But the way Arsenal play, I just think having that more of a focal point up front rather than Leandro Trossard, you saw the benefit of that against Leicester. The goals were great. The movement was great, but it wasn't just that. It was a hold-up play. For example, I go back to that chance that Ethan Nwaneri had when he hit the post. You know, that all started from a big, high looping ball coming down, and Mourinho with his back to goal around the halfway line, bringing it down, getting their poor defender, bringing it down, holding it up and laying it off, and then suddenly, bang, Arsenal were off in transition and attacking. When Leo's up front, you don't really get that. When Leo's played very, very well in that false nine, it tends to be, or it's tended to be, certainly last season when Havertz was kind of playing behind him in that left 8 role, and the two of them would almost swap positions, and Leo would have someone to play off. He doesn't have that at the moment. So because Havertz isn't there, I just think Mourinho starts. I'd be surprised if he doesn't. I've voiced my sort of concerns about having nothing on the bench to change the game if Mourinho does start. But I think the positives of him starting right now definitely outweigh the negatives in that way. So I think Mourinho starts. And when you look at what else Mikel's got facing him going into the game, you've got the option at left back as well, because of course this is the first of two games in space of a few days for Arsenal. They go to Nottingham Forest on Wednesday night, which is going to be a really tricky game. A team sitting third in the Premier League, of course. We know the City ground is an incredibly difficult place to play at the moment, especially under the lights. We saw Liverpool go and drop points there not so long ago. It's going to be a really demanding game, physical game, tense atmosphere. So do you have to take that game into account when you're picking the team on Saturday? Fortunately, Arsenal had a whole week's rest to prepare for the West Ham game. But I do wonder maybe if there are going to be a couple of changes for Mikel with that game on Wednesday in mind. Do you start Calafiori in this game, for example, and then you can start Miles Lewis-Skelly on Wednesday night? Do you potentially bring Ben White in? I doubt it, just because Ben hasn't had any sort of minutes yet. I imagine Ben White will get some, say, 20, 30 minutes against West Ham tomorrow. But there are options there. Jorginho, do you take Partey out, for example, for a game and then bring Partey back in for Nottingham Forest at home? So there are options to do a little bit of rotating ahead of the Forest game. But I think if there's going to be anything, it will probably be the left-back role. My only issue is, and I said this last night, that I kind of view Calafiori at the moment as an attacking sub, and Arsenal don't have many attacking subs, but you saw the impact he made going forward when he came on against Leicester last week, helping set up the second goal. And I do look at what Calafiori can do and the way he drives forward, where if Arsenal are in need of trying to do something a little bit different and adding a little bit of attacking impetus in the second half, as stupid as it sounds, considering he's a left back, I do see him as one of the few attacking options Arsenal have. As I said, he demonstrated it very, very well in the game against Leicester. So, yeah, interesting to see what Mikel's going to do. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. I'll pull some of them together for tomorrow morning's preview show in terms of how you think Mikel should set up. Give me your predicted 11s. Let me know, would you go Lewis-Skelly, Calafiori? Why would that choice be? What would you do up front? Let me know on all of them. Put them in the comments below, and I'll pull some of them together and get them included in the show. Okay, moving on. Obviously, Juan Garcia, we know, is a player that Arsenal tried to sign in the summer. Didn't happen. And so they moved on, got Neto in on loan. He's long-term target of Arsenal, Espanyol goalkeeper, of course. The Espanyol sporting director has been speaking about him ahead of this summer transfer window. He's got a clause in his contract, release clause, 25 million euros, that Arsenal were unwilling to trigger last summer. So when they did approach Espanyol towards the end of the window, they were trying to get him at a price less than the release clause, and they were like, no, can't be doing that. There's a week left of the transfer window. No way. It's not going to happen. But Fran Garagaza, who is their sporting director, has given an interview, and he's appeared to suggest that they would be willing to accept lower than the release clause this summer, providing that offer comes in early enough and, of course, is sort of structured well enough to suit Espanyol's needs. Now, having another summer chasing a goalkeeper, I think we've all just had enough of this. It's ridiculous that we're in this situation again. How many goalkeepers, what sort of turnover have Arsenal had with goalkeepers in the last few years? They need to get it settled so that we can just have a summer when it's not going to happen. So if it is going to be Garcia, just get it done at the start of the window, have it sorted and move on. And let's please forget for a while about the need of having to bring in a new goalkeeper. I'm still a bit like, do we need to be spending that much money on a backup goalkeeper? Obviously, it's going to be structured in a way. And this is what Garagaza said, first of all. He said, clause or nothing. No, if you get an offer on June the 14th, that is not the clause, but it is close to it in terms of fixed and variable amounts, Espanyol is not going to say no. They cannot say no. If a club comes with 8 million for Juan Garcia, that is a bad sale, 100%. So what he's saying there is, if you come in, yes, you'd be below the 25 release clause, which means you don't have to pay that in full up front. If you structure it in a way, but it's still a decent deal for us, it will be taken. So one thing, when I say I don't want to be paying 25 million for a backup goalkeeper, which sounds sensible. Obviously, if you're only spending 8 million that up front, and then you're staggering it over the next 3 or 4 years for 6 million payments, whatever. 8 million up front, then a 6 million payment, 6 million payment, whatever you're going to do over the next few years. That's a lot more doable. So yeah, we'll find out. I do think it will probably end up happening, and Garcia will sign this summer, but we shall wait and see. Okay, Champions League draw. As I said, by the time you're watching this, you'll probably know, because this won't be going out until just before the draw actually gets underway. But if you watch on YouTube, you can kind of see the path to it there. So we're going to find out who plays PSV. I mean, Arsenal are in that very bottom section of the draw. You can see there it's either going to be PSV or it's going to be Feyenoord. So if you're on the left and it's PSV, then Arsenal's route to the final looks like potentially running into Real Madrid, you would think, in the quarterfinals, providing Real Madrid come through their game against either Bayer Leverkusen or Atletico Madrid. But if Arsenal get Feyenoord, which is the right-hand side of the draw, then it's either going to be Bayern Munich in the quarters, if Arsenal get through, of course, or again, one of Atletico or Bayer Leverkusen. I would rather be on the right-hand side of that draw. I have to say, yes, Bayern Munich, we know, tend to get one over Arsenal in the Champions League. They did it last season. They knocked Arsenal out last season. I'm not sure. I watched Bayern Munich versus Celtic, and I wouldn't be too scared of them. I think Arsenal would have learned a lot. Obviously, by the quarterfinals, you'd hope Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli will be back as well, which will give them extra firepower. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion anyway that Bayern Munich get past either Atletico Madrid or Bayer Leverkusen. I know they've got the better of Leverkusen so far in terms of the league this season, but the two teams played about a week ago, and Leverkusen battered them. It ended up being a draw. They couldn't score, but they absolutely battered them in that game. And Atletico Madrid are a very, very good side as well. So I wouldn't guarantee that Bayern Munich go through against either of those teams if that's who they get in the draw. So yeah, we'll see. Feyenoord obviously going to be managed by Robin van Persie. If that happens, it feels like the narrative is going to mean that is who Arsenal are going to get, but we shall see. Or by the time you're watching this, you're going to know anyway. But yeah, that's the draw. Obviously, if you're on that right-hand side of the draw as well, so if it is the Munich route or Leverkusen route, whoever it is, looks like at some point you're going to have to play Liverpool, Barcelona to get through to the final. If you're on the other side of the draw, potentially, there's tricky games everywhere. Of course, there's tricky games everywhere, but I think I'd prefer Feyenoord. Callan Hamill is moving to Arsenal, 15-year-old talent who Arsenal have sort of been looking at for a fair while, has been training with the club, plays for St Johnstone currently in Scotland, but whoever follows Arsenal youth football will know he's been training with Arsenal at times while this deal has been worked on. He's turned down Celtic and Rangers. And yeah, Arsenal have been talks about getting this done for a fair while now, and it looks like it's going to happen this summer. A deal has been agreed with St Johnstone for him. He's a midfielder. He can play. He can play sort of defence as well. As I said, last summer he turned down Celtic and Rangers. He signed a new contract with St Johnstone, but it was always, it looks pretty certain that once he turned 16 and became eligible to make this move, that he was going to make the move to Arsenal, and it is going to be happening. It's part of their ongoing efforts to bring some of the best young talent from not just across England but the UK as well to the club. Did that last season with some moves to some Irish players. Now they've brought in Callan Hamill as well. So yeah, welcome to the club. Although not officially done yet, but welcome to the club. It is going to be happening very, very soon. For all of you around the world, certainly over towards Asia, looks like Arsenal are heading your way for the pre-season tour. Obviously been in America the last few years, but with the Club World Cup, certainly the word that I've been getting was it was looking likely they were going to be going to the other side of the world this year. And news has now emerged. Arsenal versus Spurs looks like it's happening in Hong Kong this summer. So a North London derby in Hong Kong on July the 31st at a Kai Tak Stadium. First game of pre-season looks like it's been announced. There's going to be a few others as well. So yeah, going to be fun for Gooners all around that side of the world. You're hopefully going to be able to get the chance, if you can, to see the boys in action this summer, including a North London derby against Spurs. Okay, moving on to some of your comments and questions. A couple of you, there was more as well, getting in touch to say this about the Champions League away game that was coming up. Myself and James were talking. I hadn't quite decided if I was going to make the journey over to Holland for either the PSV and final game. And quite a lot of you have been telling me to stay at home including Max here. He says, don't go to any Champions League match. Our record is not good when you attend these games. Stay at home, save the money. We might have a chance to win. And Noah says, respectfully, Mr. Watts, I would like you to consider watching the away leg on television, respectfully. I will take that on board, guys. I will take that on board. I still haven't made a final decision yet. But yes, my record is not good. The last 3 times I've gone away to games away from home in Europe, we have lost 1-0 in all 3 of them and had about 2 shots on target combined over the 3 games. The ones I don't go to, like Sporting this season, we smashed 5. So yeah, I'll take that on board, you guys, before I make my final decision. Aaron says, hi Charles, there are some rumours on Twitter that Alabe will be the new sporting director. Did you hear anything about it? Regardless of the truth of these reports, which candidate would you prefer? I haven't heard that there's been a final decision made yet. I think it is fairly, I don't want to use the word imminent. Actually, I was going to use the word that maybe a little bit makes it sound a little bit sooner than it will be. But I do think the club are very keen to get this sort of done and dusted now, and an announcement being made of who's going to take over and when. Alabe is clearly someone who is in the running for it. I couldn't say for now, definitely from any information that I've got, that he is absolutely at the front of the race. Obviously, there's other candidates, Luis Campos, potentially, obviously Jason Ito, who's current sporting interim director, could well be getting it, or has a chance to get it. So we'll wait and see. I think Alabe is my preferred option right now. I think he's very experienced. He knows Mikel, which I think is important, because I think the pair need to have a relationship. I think Alabe is experienced and strong enough and has done this for long enough now to not, to be able to challenge Mikel as well, which I think is vitally important. Very good contacts around the world. He's done the job in different areas around the world as well. So his contacts book is going to be strong. I hope you would think his scouting network is going to be very good as well, which will add to the recruitment team that is already in place at Arsenal. So I think he is probably right now my preferred candidate. We'll see how it goes and when that announcement is made. Here's one from Harry. He says, hi, Charles. Can I ask a question about upgrading the training facilities? Do we have state-of-the-art? As I look at Real Madrid training video, they have jumping walls, etc., hydro chambers, all of that. Do you think we're falling behind? These small games matter. Is Schober upgrading the building? Are we moving forward? The training centre at Arsenal is very, very impressive. It's very, very good. It does need updating. There have been updates already been happening at the training ground. You could look, since the Schober deal's been announced, it looks smarter just walking around it, no doubt about it. I think there are definitely options being considered in terms of what they are going to do at the training ground. So I think over the next few years, we will see quite major upgrades happening and major investment in the training ground. I think there's an acceptance that it does need bringing up to a sort of bit higher standards, but the standards are very good. Don't get me wrong. It is still a very, very good, up-to-date, impressive training facility. But I think there are definitely plans in place to use Schober, to use their expertise to really upgrade it and bring it up. I mean, look at Tottenham's training centre, for example. It's fantastic. It's definitely above Arsenal's right now, which makes sense because it's newer and fresher. London Colney, the major sort of part of it was a good 20 years ago now, basically built out the money that Arsenal made from selling Nicolas Anelka to Real Madrid in whatever 99 that was. So that first major upgrade was a long time ago. It has improved since then and new things added to it. But from what I understand, when the deal was done at that time, the belief was that over the next few years, we'd see some pretty sort of major investments and improvements at London Colney. So we'll wait to see when they do start to happen. And finally, one from Sad who says, why did it take so long to operate? This is on Tomiyasu. He's been out so long and could well be on recovery by now. Not getting all the facts on this one for some reason. Anyway, I hope he's back stronger than ever. They did operate. They operated in August. This is the second operation. So they initially did do an operation in August. He came back from that, and that's when he came back and got back in the team, had his one appearance, but then unfortunately had the setback. And you don't immediately after that happens jump straight back into another operation. You try and leave it as long as possible, or because the last thing they want to do is a final resort is operating, especially when you've already just done an operation as well. Medical experts will always do their very, very best not to operate because of the toll that takes on the body and the lasting damage that can do on your body. So they already did an operation that ended up not really sorting it out, and he obviously had to set back after he came back. And then so it's understandable they then left it a few months to see, what other route they could go down. Obviously now they've come to the conclusion that they have to operate again. But that was a very last, that would have been the last thing, right at the end of the process. They just would have done everything they could to avoid having to have a second operation, but unfortunately they had to do that. But as you say, hopefully he comes back stronger than ever now, and they do finally get to the bottom of it, because it is worrying for Tomiyasu, and undoubtedly so. And that's it for me today, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for listening. Appreciate it as always. I'll be back in the morning to do the preview show, as I said earlier on. So get me your comments, your opinions on who should start and why. Give me your predicted 11s or your preferred 11s, and I'll pull some of them together and get them included in the show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a great Friday, everyone. Enjoy the start to your weekend. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.